Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy DLloyd. So, the NCAA suspension of James Wiseman makes absolutely no sense. And I'm going to be going over why. Now, if you don't know who James Wiseman is or why he is being suspended, now James Wiseman is going to potentially be the #1 overall draft pick in the upcoming NBA draft. You will probably figure no lower than 3 in the NBA draft. Highly touted prospect coming out of high school. Many people have him as the #1 player coming out of high school. He elects to go to Memphis to play basketball. So he goes to Memphis where the head coach is Penny Hardaway. Now, this is where the suspension part comes in. Penny Hardaway, a few years back, paid $11.5 thousand to help move James Wiseman and his family from Nashville, Tennessee to Memphis, Tennessee. At that time, Penny Hardaway also donated $1 million to help create a Hall of Fame for Memphis. So he was considered a booster at that time, even though Penny Hardaway was not the head coach at the time at Memphis. He was considered a booster. Now fast forward, Penny Hardaway is the head coach at Memphis, and James Wiseman is now enrolling at Memphis. So now the NCAA says he violates rules, and he now has to pay back $11.5 thousand, which he has to donate to a charity of his choice. He's also going to miss 12 games. He'll be eligible to return January 12th. With that said, the suspension doesn't really make sense or doesn't really add up. In terms of the games, being out 12 games, I'm fine with that. You did break a rule. I think it's a stupid rule at times, but the fact that a booster helped pay for your family to move, he has to pay the consequences for that. If you decide not to suspend him any games for that, of course, other players who have been suspended are going to look at you and say, how come he got off but we didn't? So I'm fine. I'm perfectly okay with the suspension. And I don't think a lot of people are really going to argue the fact that he did get suspended for 12 games. It's a third of the season, but still, he'll be able to finish out the year. I don't think that's terrible. I think that's fine. The problem and the issue that I have is that he is now being forced to donate $11.5 thousand. Now, my initial reaction when I heard that was, this is essentially a fine, right? The organization is telling you that you are now required to pay a certain amount of money. That's a fine. You see it in the NFL, you see it in the NBA. This is a fine. They want to call it a payback is what they're calling it. He needs to pay back what he borrowed, but this is essentially a fine. But it's funny because the NCAA, which celebrates amateurism, right? They're all about amateurism. Players aren't allowed to get paid because they're amateurs. They can't profit off their likeness or names because they're amateurs. How is he supposed to come up with $11.5 thousand? We're in season. He can't go get a job. He can't go to the local mall and start filling out applications. There's no way you can work. So how is a college student, any college student, just going to come up with $11.5 thousand, especially a college student whose family just had to borrow $11.5 thousand to move to Memphis? Makes absolutely no sense. And if you guys could tell me why, please do in the comment section below, because I have no idea why they thought this was a punishment that was worth what happened. He clearly didn't have the money when he borrowed it, and now you're asking him to pay it back. Now, of course, there's no doubt in my mind he's going to get the money somehow. I think a booster may come up with the money. The school's going to somehow find a way to get the money in his hands. But you know the way that he's going to get the money isn't going to be a legal way in terms of the rules, right? He'll probably have to violate some sort of rule. Even Jay Williams decided to create a GoFundMe, which could also potentially violate another rule. So it makes no sense to me, man. $11.5 thousand to pay back to a charity of his choice is great for the charity that he ultimately decides to donate the money to. Whenever he gets the money, I'm sure he'll make a deal with somebody that he'll pay it back when he does get drafted. Even if he gets injured, the man's going to be drafted when he does get selected in the draft next year, unless it's some crazy catastrophic injury. But he can't borrow it from agents right now. He can't go sign some autographs and make the money. It doesn't make sense to me. And this is essentially whatever they want to call this. He was fined $11.5 thousand. A guy who does not have the money. I think that makes no sense. It's different. In the NFL, you find players who is making a salary. This guy isn't. And he's not allowed to. So that's my thoughts and opinions on this situation, man. Makes absolutely no sense to me, but you guys let me know how you feel about it in the comment section below. Do you see a scenario where it actually made sense for the NCAA to fine James Wiseman $11.5 thousand? Or are you like me? Are you just baffled at this situation in its entirety? Let me know how you guys feel about this in the comment section below. It's your boy DLloyd. I'm going to see y'all next time. Peace.